this website is called Jazz, and it's through pbskids.org. Can you guys see it all? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this timeline together. So you guys see the timeline, it starts in 1700, and it goes all the way till 1960. So jazz music started when?
1700s.
Okay, and the most recent updates of jazz music and instruments that we know are in what year?
1960.
1960. Awesome. Okay. So on the first bullet of 1700, you guys see the picture here. In the it says "Seen in the South." Okay. When West African tribes were brought to the New World in chains, they carried their music and traditions with them. The powerful rhythms of African percussion influenced American music. Slave work songs were created in the African tradition of call and response. To tell a story, a song leader would call out a line and the workers would respond to the call. Many slaveholders did not allow the slaves to speak to each other, so the only way they could communicate was through song. And this is actually really interesting because I read a book when I was in elementary school and how the slaves would call out these different types of rhymes back and forth as like codes to their friends so that they could like escape off of the place where they were working because they were slaves and they were trying to get their freedom. So slaves sang songs called spirituals to express their religious beliefs, feelings, and desires in freedom. And so at the very end it says they used the power of their voices to express their feelings. So I think there's our first characteristic of jazz music. All right, the 1800s. Here's a new picture. The 1800s, you guys know about Ellis Island and all the immigrants coming over? Yeah. So a lot of people came from other countries coming to America to try to be American citizens because they wanted a better life and future for themselves. So America was thought of as the land of opportunity. But in the mid-1800s, there's all these different types of people coming, and actually this Spanish flamenco actually went and saw a show like that in Spain, and it was really, really interesting. They told a story through dance. But with jazz music, they're telling a story through music. So the African-American composers all came about, and they combined European compositional styles with the rhythmic and melodic music that came from the black community. So they already start pulling music from different types of communities and different influences. And so this became known as ragtime, and that's a type of music that you guys can go back and listen to on YouTube or something. Ragtime was centered in Missouri, where many talented musicians lived to perfect their music. All right, in the 1900s, here we have a little band. It looks like they're playing with what kind of instruments? Can you guys see? Does it look like they're playing with like trash or like inventing something? What do y'all think? Drums, yeah? So the people of New Orleans were from many different cultures. The city had been a French territory during the 1700s. And so musical traditions from all over the world began coming together. And New Orleans is definitely the melting pot of the world. Not the whole world, but it's pretty interesting. And so American musicians merged European traditions with the blues, ragtime, marching band music, and created a new style of music known as jazz. 1920. Okay, here we have a lot of people, what does it look like? Dancing, because jazz is really great to dance to. And it's very like calming. Don't you guys think when you are listening to the music? So associated with jazz comes these people called flappers, and they shocked their audiences because their dresses were so short. Well, they wore shorter dresses, not as short as today. But it was kind of like showing a little extra skin was a big deal back then. So for the first time, radios and record players were widely available in stores, and jazz music became more popular. And in 1930, here we have a family during the Great Depression, and a new style of jazz came about called big band swing. People loved to dance and swing, and it became the most popular form of music, and jazz was played on the airwaves and the radios to kind of keep people's morale up, to kind of keep them happy during the Great Depression. In 1940, all right, these guys are in the armed forces, like World War II, and they had a lot of jazz musicians, and I'm sure it kept a lot of the troops very happy. but it says African American jazz bands continue to face racial discrimination by the record industry because of their color. But they didn't think about what kind of music that they were trying to play and how it was going to influence people. 1950, jazz music began to be played through television, and dance halls where jazz bands were once played began to close all across the country because a newer form of music was coming in, and it was called rock and roll. You guys know rock and roll, right? Yeah. I like that kind of. It says, despite the shift in jazz's popularity, talented musicians continue to produce complex and powerful music and take jazz in new directions. And last but not least, 1960. 1960 was a big change for America. It was like the civil rights, the Vietnam War. And so y'all know about Martin Luther and how he had his I Have a Dream speech. And so through the 1960s, civil rights activists were murdered and protesters were beaten and killed. So a lot of people were able to show their anger through the type of music, which was jazz music. It said some artists wanted to break away from these establishments and control their music. At the same time, many artists expressed their anger and disappointment at the slow pace of change in their music. So music is really, really starting to change here. So that was the timeline. And you guys can look at other links on this page. It's wonderful to ask questions, what we're going to discuss today. How does a jazz musician express an idea or feeling in a piece of music? You can look at different band leaders, and you can play a game. You can play around with all the different kinds of sounds. You can join the jazz band, and you can put your name in and everything. But for the band leader, we're going to look at the different types of sounds. So the first one, you guys hear the baritone sax? And that's the tenor sax, alto sax, and baritone sax. And so here's the piano, the electric piano, and the organ. Organs are pretty old. You can see those in church sometimes. Congos, I like those. The vibes. Maracas, those are so fun. The gyro, I've never heard that before. The trap set, which is the drums, probably y'all are most familiar with. Here's some guitars. String bass, and electric guitar. These are probably what y'all are most familiar with, right? Yeah. Trombone, muted trumpet, and the trumpet. I know the trumpet. So you guys can just play around with this website, and you guys are able to look at all the different types of music that is associated with jazz band. So after you play with that website, I'm going to read a book to you guys called Ben's Trumpet by Rachel Isadora. How many of you guys have read this in the library? It's amazing. Awesome. Well, we get to read a new book together. Okay. So, before I read the book, I want you guys to pay attention to the pictures, okay, and what's going on in the book, because I'm going to ask you a few questions afterwards, and I really want you guys to be able to be interactive with this book. Okay, I'm going to show you guys the pictures, and if you can't see, just raise your hand and I'll walk around. Ben's Trumpet by Rachel Isadora. Here's the first pages. What do you think is going to happen, or what do you see? Yes, ma'am? Lines? But what type of lines? Do you think they're lightning bolts, or what? Do you think they're, yes? What? Sound. Sound. Okay. So we kind of already know what the book's going to be about. All right. Here we have a man dancing to the sound. Okay. In the evening, Ben sits on the fire escape and listens to the music from the Zigzag Jazz Club. He joins in playing his trumpet. Sometimes he plays until very late and falls asleep in the hot night air. Every day on the way home from school, Ben stops by the Zigzag Jazz Club. He watches the musicians practice. The pianist saxophonist. You guys remember the sounds that we just heard? Okay, so be thinking of those sounds in your mind. The trombonist, that big long thing we have to pull in and pull out. And the drummer. But most of all, Ben thinks the trumpeter is the cat's meow. That's a funny expression. Ben feels the rhythm of the music all the way home. You guys ever got a song stuck in your head, and on your way home you just can't get it out and you just think of it all the time? That's probably what Ben's doing. He plays for his mama, grandmother, and baby brother. He plays for his whole family. He's getting a lot of practice. And for his papa and his friends. One day, Ben is sitting on the stoop and playing his trumpet. I like your horn, someone says. I wonder who that could be. It was the trumpeter from the Zigzag Jazz Club. Ben smiles and watches him walk to the club. So he just met his hero, probably. The person that he thinks is just amazing at playing the jazz band. The next day after school, Ben stops and listens to the musicians practicing a red hot piece. He starts blasting away at his trumpet. Some kids in front of the candy store watch him. "Hey, what you doing?" they yell. Ben stops and turns around. What you think you're doing?" they ask again. "I'm playing my trumpet," Ben answers. "Man, you're crazy. You got no trumpet." They laugh and laugh. Ben puts his hands in his pocket and walks slowly home. He sits on the stoop and watches the blinking lights of the Zigzag Jazz Club. He sits there a long, long time, just watching. What do you think he's thinking about?
The player that was missing with those pieces.
Down the street, the band comes out for a break. The trumpeter comes over to Ben. "Where's your horn?" he asks. "I don't have one," Ben says. The trumpeter puts his hand on Ben's shoulder. "Come over to the club," he says. That's so exciting. "And we'll see what we can do." The end. You're right. So, now that you know a little bit about the jazz band and the types of instruments that we looked at on this website, and then reading this book called Ben's Trumpet, I want you guys to tell me what you thought about when we were reading this book, how it made you feel, and what you noticed in a lot of the things that the book talked about. Yes, ma'am?
It made me feel like you don't have to listen to hip-hop all the time.
I'm sorry, what?
It made me feel like you don't have to listen to hip-hop all the time.
Yeah, because different type of music influences you. I really, really like that. Anyone else? I want to hear your thoughts. Because I know you guys love to listen to your music. I hear you guys talking about it a lot during class. Yes, ma'am. Hey, y'all.
It makes me feel
Hey,
like
guys. Wait, sweetie. Let's be respectful when someone's talking. Can you sit up for me? Can you sit up for me? Okay.
it makes me feel like it's different types of music, and that you can express your music if it's jazz, hip-hop, or pop, or anything.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes, sir. Hey, class. Exactly. Yeah. So what makes me think of jazz, or helps me identify with it, is that if you hear a slow song, it kind of makes me feel kind of sad, kind of like, I don't know, like I can relax to it. But if I hear a happy song, I feel energetic. And I feel like going out somewhere and like dancing to it. Or if I hear a song with words that remind me of something from the past or something that happened today, that really why there's so many great musicians in the world. Okay? So we talked about how the book made you feel, the type of instruments. Pay attention, okay? Can you sit up in your chair? Okay. And so how it made you feel. Okay, by looking at the art in this book, what do you think? You said, who said this was sound? Uh-huh. You guys see all the distinct lines and all the shading and stuff. Do you think when listening to music you can draw how it makes you feel? Yeah? You see, this is completely black, and all you see is the trumpet and the trumpeter, because that's all you're focusing on is the music and the sounds that are coming from it. So music has a stronger influence on you than you guys really think. Sometimes you don't recognize it, but it's like when you're walking down the street and you have that song stuck in your head. And you guys can act on that, or you choose to not act on that. So, we're going to move on to listening to different types of jazz music. I want you guys to pull out a piece of paper.